Everybody says when you win in a sports league, it is always tough to repeat. In the PWHL's case, and specifically the Minnesota Frost, it was a tough road, but they made it. This is Weekly in Sports, end of the month May program. My name is Scott McGregor. What else inspired over the world of sports? Let's find out. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Weekly in Sports.
Welcome to What's Happening in the Sports World Today, hosted by your host of the Sports for Beginners podcast, Scott McGregor. Today, Scott has some exciting news for all of you listening today. I wonder what it could be, so let's find out and join Scott in the studio now.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Scott McGregor, the host of Weekly in Sports, the podcast. This is episode number 4 of Weekly in Sports. In podcast form. It's in podcast form? When did this start happening? Well, it's a long story that we'll get into later, maybe when we celebrate 1 year of Weekly in Sports. But that's besides the point. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the elephant in the room in the Minnesota Frost as you'd like to think it would be impossible to repeat, right? Well, not in Minnesota Frost's case. Not in the Minnesota Frost's case. The Minnesota Frost, also known to the world in the inaugural season of the PWHL, have won the second Walter Cup in the league's history, and their second straight Walter Cup in the history of their franchise. They won the inaugural Walter Cup despite having to face, get this, the team now known as the Toronto Scepters. Yep, it was a rematch, and Minnesota once again came out on top. The Minnesota Frost earned their second straight Walter Cup title with a 2-1 overtime win over the Ottawa Charge in Game 4 of the PWHL Finals, presented by Scotiabank. Of course, that was the sponsor for this year's finals. Liz Sheppers was the overtime hero for the Frost as she netted a championship-winning goal for the second year in a row, sending a roaring crowd of, get this, 11,024 fans to their feet at XL Energy Center. After a scoreless first period, Minnesota took their first lead of the series with a goal from Kelly Panik midway through the second period. As Ottawa pushed to stay alive in the third period, Teresa Venesova, if I pronounce the name wrong, we're gonna go with TV just in case. I don't want to say TV as in television. TV as in the name of the player, the first letters of the name of the player. If I pronounce that wrong, I apologize. She found the back of the net midway through the final frame to tie the game at 1, forcing overtime. Forget this, the fourth straight time in the PWHL finals. It took 12 minutes of overtime action for the Frost to bury the game winner and secure their second Walter Cup of the year of their franchise's history, and of course, their second Walter Cup, being the only team in PWHL history so far that have won back-to-back Walter Cups. There's a saying in sports, fans. Of course, my name is Scott McGregor. I'm the host of this show. But there's a saying in sports. There is a saying in sports. It is so hard to win in a league of any kind, whether that be the NFL, the NHL, the NBA, perhaps the WNBA, etc., etc. But congratulations to Liz Shepherds for nailing that game winner to send Minnesota riding high after winning their second Walter Cup in PWHL history. Can they three-peat? That remains to be seen. The Ilana Kloss Playoff MVP award was given to Ottawa's goaltender Gwyneth Phillips, as she led all goaltenders with a 123 goals against average and a 952 save percentage through 8 playoff starts. The Charge rookie posted 4 postseason wins, including 1 shutout, and did not lose a game in regulation throughout the playoffs. Phillips made 33 saves in game number 4. Well, I guess the only difference between Minnesota lifting the cup for the first time versus the second time, they defeated the Boston Fleet on Boston's home turf in the last finals that Minnesota was in. This time, in a best-of-5 series that would have ended in Ottawa, Minnesota defied the odds, and in an intriguing competition, Minnesota was able to win in as many overtimes as it would take. Oh, by the way, remember that 3 overtime game last playoffs between Montreal and Boston? Top this Ottawa versus Montreal versus Boston. Earlier in the playoffs, during game 2, I should say, of the Montreal and Ottawa series, it took 4 overtimes to find a winner. Yeah, let that sink in. Let that sink in. Not 1 overtime, not 2 overtimes, definitely not 3 overtimes, and definitely not 60 minutes. It took them 4 overtimes to find a winner in that one. Normally games can end in regulation with a final score of 5-3, 3-2, 4-2. You get the picture. But not in this case. 4 games between Minnesota and Ottawa. And guess what? Minnesota won 3 of those games, 2 of them at home, by the same score, 2-1. And they won in Ottawa 2-1 after Ottawa took the opener on Tuesday, May 20th, 2025. You gotta give Ottawa their flowers. Again, as I talked about off the top of the program, it is very hard for a team like Minnesota, a team coming in from Minnesota, I should say, even in the PWHL, it is very hard for a team to possibly three-peat, and it is also very hard to go back to back. It is very hard to go back to back. Now, can they do it again next year in the 2025-2026 season when Seattle and Vancouver are in the mix? That remains to be seen. And speaking of things that remain to be seen, going to wrap up our PWHL talk on the Minnesota Frost winning their second Walter Cup in franchise history and winning the PWHL's second Walter Cup in PWHL history. Gonna end off this segment here before we get to what's coming up, because I do want to talk some football and I also want to talk some NHL as well a little bit later. But let's give you some quotes from both sides of the ice. We'll start with the Ottawa side of the ice. Goaltender Gwyneth Phillips was asked about on winning the Ilana Kloss Playoff MVP award and said this: "The individual award is superseded by the team loss. The individual award is superseded by the team loss. We were so close and we really wanted that, we really want that. My accomplishments are attributed to the players in front of me, so maybe tomorrow it'll be nicer, but I really wanted that win. Head coach of the Ottawa Charge, Carla McLeod, said on the streak of overtime games, "I'm just so impressed by our group because we played a lot of hockey in a short amount of time here. There was the long OT against Montreal, and then every game being an overtime game here, but this group just stuck with it. We never factored it into anything. We just kept going. We've got fueled the right way. Sorry, we've got great support, is what she said. Staff around these players, and that try to ensure, okay, let me try that again. We've just got to keep going, or we've just kept going. We've got great support staff around these players that try to ensure they were fueled the right way. Of course, there's wear and tear. That's inevitable experience. But it's playoff hockey, and we were wholeheartedly embracing the whole experience. I just commend our players because they played with their hearts every single game. Okay, so I may have overstepped on that side, on the Ottawa side, but you know what? That's okay. We quickly corrected things. And last but certainly not least, to close this out, team goaltender of the champion, Minnesota Frost. Finally, I can call the Frost a champion. I mean, they were already champions, but you get the picture. They were champions when they were PWHL Minnesota. They're champions now that they have a team name under the Frost. And again, Maddie Rooney picking up one of the quotes that was notable and was on the team's playoff success. She said, "Overall, we just have a great team culture from staff, leadership down. Everyone was just brought in. The belief in ourselves and in each other around the locker room was there all season. Despite some bumps in the road, we never had a doubt. I think that showed here in this series the grit that we had after losing that first game and coming out and having that shift after shift mentality on the attack. I think that was really what allowed us to come out on top." Head coach of Minnesota's championship team, the Frost, Ken K. Lee. Ken, hopefully I'm saying that right. If I am not, I apologize. On winning the Walter Cup at home, he said, "To win in front of our fans, to have over 10,000 come to the XL Energy Center on a holiday and support our players is just outstanding. It was amazing, even with Gwyneth Phillips winning at MVP and them all cheering for her. It just shows how great a fan base we have, how much class they have, how much they love the game, and how much they love watching the players compete." Let me just run that one more time for the head coach of Minnesota. To win in front of our fans, to have over 10,000 come to the XL Energy Center on a holiday and support our players is just outstanding. It was amazing, even with Gwyneth Phillips winning MVP and them all cheering for her. It just shows how great a fan base we have, how much class they have, how much they love the game, and how much they love watching the players compete. That's as good of a statement from any head coach I would ever read. Because when you say, you know what, despite the other goalie getting the MVP, or in this case, winning the whole enchilada, if you were a gambling person. I am not a gambling person, but I'm just referencing that. To hear a coach say that it was amazing, even with the other goaltender, Gwyneth Phillips, winning the MVP, and all the fans in the arena, whether they were Charge fans or Frost fans, they were all cheering for Gwyneth Phillips. It just shows how great how great a fan base that Minnesota has as a team, how much class the fans have, how much they love the game, and how much they love watching the players compete night in, night out. I wanted to add that in because you never know. We could have a game. We could have a game, even on the eastern side of things, we could have a game at like, I don't know, 1 in the afternoon. You could have a game at like 12 in the afternoon, 2 in the afternoon, 3 in the afternoon. It really doesn't matter. Day game, night game, it all spells the same, but holy moly. All right, that's enough PWHL talk for a little bit, but I'm pretty sure I'll keep talking about it on Sports for Beginners during my football show, which I'm really excited about. I'm really, really excited about that for everyone, especially our football fans who love football content. I'm very, very excited to bring that to you. When we return to to Weekly in Sports, I was going to say PW. No, I meant to say Weekly in Sports. We are going to talk a little NHL, the Eastern Conference Final and the Western Conference Final are where we are going to determine who is left standing for that shot at Lord Stanley's Cup. Before we do that, you know the drill. We do monthly shout-outs. Of course, we called them weekly shout-outs of the week. We're doing it monthly, though, which I think has a nice ring to it. I really think it has a nice ring to it. To be honest, I really do. But you know what? It is what it is. And with that being said, we are going to talk about some of the podcasts that I have listened to as of late that I would like to give a shout out to. But if you want to get in on the action, all you need to do, yes, all you need to do is head on over. Yes, head on over. All you need to do is head on over to our email address at sportsforbeginnerspodcast8231@gmail.com and use subject shoutouts of the month, letting us know what kind of podcast you would like to shout out. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a break. When we come back, it's shoutouts of the month time. Plus, how are the NHL playoffs going and who is in the running for the Lord Stanley's Cup? Still, plus dire news, or is it dire news? Is it a breath of fresh air? I'll give you my thoughts on the disappearance of Brandon Shanahan. He was let go by the Toronto Maple Leafs. So, does that make me feel happy? Is that a call for, no, here we go again? Whatever the case is, you're going to find out my thoughts on it after Shoutouts of the Month and right after this.
CNT Radio will never give you up. They will never let you down. Nor will they run around or desert you. So join Nick Astley for The Melting Pot every Saturday on CNT Radio. Hang on a minute. He's not Nick Astley. Oh, jings, I've done it wrong. Anyway, just join Nick for The Melting Pot on CNT Radio.
Take another look with Gerda Felix and Melanie Taddeo Malo. Two powerful women of diverse backgrounds having genuine, unique, and uncomfortable conversations that everyone needs to have. Join Melanie and Gerda for conversations about what is missing from human connections.
Looking for a good hockey podcast that covers your favorite hockey teams and mine? Check out On the Ice and Behind the Benches, where we chat about our favorite hockey teams from puck drop to the last play of the action. To learn more, follow the On the Ice and Behind the Benches Facebook page. Search On the Ice and Behind the Benches.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, I should say. Okay, there we go. I want to make sure we were starting. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Weekly in Sports podcast. I am your host, Scott McGregor. Thank you guys so much for being with us. Really, really appreciate you jumping on. We are going to be with you for about a couple more minutes. But I want to give as much time as we can so we can get into some of the thoughts on Brandon Shanahan. And I'm going to make sure that we do so. But first, it's time for some shout-outs of the month. And the first one goes out to my good buddy Ali over at Broadcast Map. He is now running a show with Makara. They call it Ali and Makara's Books. I haven't had a chance to listen to the show yet, but I can tell you, based on what I have seen in the descriptions but have yet to hear, and I want to get to it, I will get to it. I will get to it. Don't you worry, Ali and Makara. I will get to it. Don't worry, I will get to it. I will get there. I haven't had a chance to listen to any of the shows yet, but I love what you guys have put together. And a show I'm really looking forward to is actually a show that dropped yesterday. Of course, by the time Weekly and Sports fans hear this is being recorded on Tuesday, May the 27th, 2025. I was going to say 2029, but that's years ahead. That's a few years ahead. That's like 4 years ahead to the exact. Maybe 5. Well, you know what? It doesn't matter. I think it's exactly 4. Anyways, I'm very excited about the episode talking about the Hunger Games and other books that Ali and Makara have been reading. Fun fact, I've actually seen those movies of the Hunger Games. Great movies, I will say, but definitely something I would not encourage a young person to listen to, or rather watch, unless they are with an adult. Because some of the things that go down are very scary, and if a young person were to watch this, I'd highly advise a parent to be with them. Alright, next up, we want to talk about, well, how about we give a shout out to Ben and Dykstra, the host of the Sit Down Standout Show. Great program, really great program, would not change a thing. I actually was listening to one of the episodes, I've got to remember which one it was, but I want to tell Ben, if you're listening to this right now at this time, odds are you might listen to it tomorrow, I want to let you know that that was a great guest on it with Mary Pontini. If I pronounced that wrong, I apologize. But Ben, I thought the show was well thought out. I thought it was also very well in control, and it was nice to hear the story about someone like Mary who has dealt with, well, an aggressive form, I should say, of multiple MSs, of multiple cirrhosis, if I'm not mistaken. I might have said that wrong, but you know what? That's okay. And again, you're right, Ben. And anyone who has said this, even to me, I believe that we can't control what happens to us in life. We really can't. As much as we'd like to control what happens in our life, especially when it comes to our health, we can't control what happens in our health. The only thing we can do to better our health, especially with disabilities, when it comes to Ben and Dykstra's show, we have to look at the fact that what can we do even with a disability? Like, what can we do with a disability that will tell us we matter, we can do what other people can do even with a disability? And listen, I'm not one to be talking about everybody and being that guy that, calls everyone out and badmouths everyone. I'm not that kind of guy. I'm going to leave it at that. But sometimes you don't know how good you have it until it's gone. It's taken me a while to figure that out. And it might take, I don't know, a couple of whiles for people to figure that stuff out. However long it takes, everyone is equal. And no matter how much you say you aren't, or how much you say a negative thing, you just gotta stay positive, which is why the next shout out of the week, or the month rather, we'll go into a fourth one as well, given our time. The third one is going to go to the Hunter Hope Foundation and the people involved in Aaron and Jill Kelly. Well, Aaron Kelly Bean and Jill Kelly. It's a mother-daughter podcast, originally called, as you may know, it's called the Immeasurably More Podcast now, but originally, this program was not called the Immeasurably More Podcast. This was called the Light Your Heart with Hope Podcast. Now, what do I like about this podcast? First of all, I like that they have stories to tell. I like that they talk about things related to Christianity and other things. But I really, really enjoy, and I'm gonna admit this right now, I really, really, really enjoy what they do at the end of every episode, which is pray. They pray. And they don't just pray for God, they pray for everyone. I want to do a story about my brother actually doing a prayer for a good friend of ours, but that might take a bit long. So we're not going to bother with that. Maybe that will be a next time thing. I don't know. We'll see. With that said, Brandon Shanahan, we're going to get to the NHL now. Brandon Shanahan is gone, and word has gotten out that the Maple Leafs are not hiring a new president? What's up with that? Look, I understand how many Maple Leaf fans might be feeling about this. In my mind, it was time for a change, and that's what Keith Pelly did. He parted ways with Brandon Shanahan, and now it's about, well, I guess in the Maple Leafs case, it's not really about finding the next president. It's more about, can you trust Craig Berube and GM Brad Treliving? Like, I don't know if you can. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do in the off season. But oh my, I mean, the way the Maple Leafs season ended, you had a feeling the writing was on the wall for people in the organization, in the front office, that they would be going if things did not go the way that Toronto wanted them to go. And yeah, well, you made it past the first round. You got over that hump, but now you go into round two and then you lose again? And then you lose? What is going on? What is going on? That's my question. What is going on? Like, what is going on here? I mean, I agree it was time for a change. It was definitely time for a change. But the fact is, Keith Pelly said, according to reports I saw, they are not going to hire a new president. They're not interested in looking for a new president. So what does that mean for the players? Well, I can think of two things. One, you got one more chance with our team. Two, because of our decisions, we're going to have to move on from somebody. And three, a few of these guys that were on the team for the 2024-2025 season are going to get cut. Now, Mitch Marner, he's an interesting case, but his contract is up. So his trade clause that he has, it doesn't matter. It does not matter. It literally does not matter. It doesn't. The Leafs can let Marner walk, but they'd get nothing out of it. Even if they traded him, they could get something out of a trade? Or who are you going to trade with? That's the next question I would be asking myself if I was the Maple Leafs. If we trade Marner, what are we going to get for Marner? And who are we going to trade him to? Maybe we should let him walk, because then we don't really have him on our team, which stinks, but he could get picked up by us in free agency, or he could get picked up by perhaps the Pittsburgh Penguins. I doubt that'll happen, but never say never. He could get picked up by the New York Rangers. He could get picked up by the Chicago Blackhawks. He could get picked up by anybody if he elects free agency. Okay, so who's left? Who's left? The playoffs are currently underway, and we're down to the final four. The final 6 out of 16 teams were Toronto, Florida, Carolina, Washington, Dallas, and Edmonton. Now, in the final 4, we got Carolina, Dallas, Florida, and Edmonton. But that's because the Maple Leafs lost a Game 7 again and ultimately lost the series to Florida 4-3. Meanwhile, the Washington Capitals, they had the same thing Carolina did to New Jersey happen to them after they did it to the Montreal Canadiens in the first round of the playoffs. The Oilers knocked off the Kings 4-2 in the first round of the playoffs. Then they took out Vegas 4-1, 4-1, I should say, in round 2. Winnipeg was not making it that easy for Dallas to get away and move on to face Edmonton right now. But Edmonton will face Dallas, and they are facing Dallas after the Stars eliminate the Jets 4-2 in a series, 4-2 in the series. And right now, only one more win for Florida, and they're right back knocking on Lord Stanley's door, saying, come home with us. Of course, they got to get by whoever wins the Dallas and Edmonton series. And right now, the leader right now in that series is the Edmonton Oilers at 2-1. However, Game 4 of the Western Conference is underway right now and coming to a close as we speak. The Oilers are ahead 2-1. Also, they are ahead 2-1 in the series. So will they go up 3-1? You'll have to wait and find out. You'll most likely know the answer by the time this show hits the air. Meanwhile, tomorrow, even though this show will be dropping on Thursday, you're going to know the answer to the Panthers and Hurricanes game, most likely by the time Weekly in Sports drops. But if the Panthers can take down the Hurricanes tomorrow night, on Wednesday, May the 28th, 2025, they are knocking on Lord Stanley's door, and the other team that'll be knocking on the door might just be the Edmonton Oilers if they can put away the Stars. I'll be honest with you. I think now that Carolina has got a game, I think we're going to get a series. It's tough to come back from down 3-0 in a best of 7, but my goodness me, if the Carolina Hurricanes can do that, and I think they can, Florida is in trouble. So if I was Florida, I would end it Wednesday night. And if I were Dallas, I would get right back in this hockey game against the Oilers right now to make sure that we end up playing Game 6, whether Edmonton likes it or not. I don't want to be rude there. I really don't want to be rude there. I think I came off as rude there, so I apologize. But I feel like both of these series, if the team that's down finds a way to come back and tie the series and then take the lead and then take the series lead, we're going to get Game 7s all around. And I honestly would not mind it. Whether it's Dallas versus Florida, Dallas versus Hurricanes, or Edmonton versus Hurricanes, or even Edmonton again versus Florida again. I really don't care who wins the Stanley Cup, but let's go Oilers. Give me the Oilers. If we end up seeing a Florida and Edmonton matchup, give me the Oilers over the Florida Panthers to win a Stanley Cup and bring Lord Stanley's Cup back to Edmonton, specifically back to Alberta. And that's coming from a Pittsburgh Penguins Canadian hockey fan. Wow. Bet you didn't expect that one coming, did you? Okay. We're coming up on the closing moments of our show. So, as we start to close up the program, I would just like to remind everyone that coming up following this show on the next day after this show drops, we are going into another episode of Sports for Beginners. This will be a football program. I can't wait to bring it to you. I really can't. It feels like the day is coming very quick. So we are going to take a quick 30-second timeout. Come back. We'll discuss my thoughts on the Blue Jays season so far, where they stand in the standings. Of course, I will also lead in some people that I thought stood out. And then we'll wrap it all up with getting you ready for our end of the month June show, where we're definitely going to be talking a lot of PWHL, even though it's the off season, because we got to talk about, well, a general manager was named for PWHL Seattle. A general manager was named, I believe, for PWHL Vancouver. We'll get to it all. Don't you worry. And we'll do it all in about a minute and 30 seconds right after this from our good friends over at Sienna T Radio. This is Weekly in Sports, the podcast. I am Scott McGregor, and we will be right back.
Hello? How are you, my friend? Why? What's the matter? Why feeling bored and lonely? Look at me. I am always happy. The only reason? I can tell you, it's because I listen to CNT Radio. All the best shows you can think of. The Melting Pot, the Cosmopolitan Culture Club, and the Song Bank. There are also many more new shows to come. Please make sure to visit her website at http://sienna-t.wordpress.com/sienna-t-radio. Oh, now I can hear you more cheerful.
CNT Radio, making your day brighter, one song at a time.
All right, final couple of minutes here on our show for Weekly in Sports end of the month May program. I am Scott McGregor. This is the part of the show where we are going to start wrapping things up. Before we do, however, I would like to let everyone know that the next Weekly in Sports program is set to be, well, I will set it to be at the end of the month of June. We will see what we can work out there. That will definitely be focused on quite a bit of PWHL talk. We got to talk about some GMs that were hired, I believe. And we also got to talk about, well, I think by then we'll be talking about the draft for the 2025-2026 season. I know I didn't really deliver as promised with a PWHL recap of the Minnesota Frost and the Ottawa Charge game. I apologize for that, but you know what? Life happens, and sometimes you can't control it. All you gotta do is try to get better. With that all being said, some of my thoughts on the Blue Jays so far this season. Look, as I mentioned over the course of the program, it is hard, and I believe it. It is hard to win in any league. It is hard to win in any baseball, in any league. It is hard. It is absolutely hard to win a baseball game, a football game, rather a championship. It is hard to win because if you don't, let's just say you gave it your all, and that's all that matters. A lot of people would say to me, and I'm keeping this by everyone I may talk to may say to me, but Scott, if you think you have won every game you play in, doesn't that account for something? I would answer to say, it does, but there's an old saying in sports, you can't win them all. And by the way, the Blue Jays record right now, as they play in the top of the 8, I believe they're in. Okay, I got an update that said they were, I don't know, we had a scoring play or something. But look, all I'm saying is, given the Blue Jays record at where they're at right now, at 26-27, or rather, let's say they get to 500 today, again, and they win another ball game. Let's just say that happens. No matter what the actual score of the game is, let's just say that happens. The Blue Jays are gonna need to really come alive. And yes, you heard me, I said come alive. They need to come alive and play baseball the way that fans watching them in the, I don't know, 80s, 90s, whenever it was that we became a team, know they can play. They don't need to play like the old school baseball, but they do need to play good baseball to get where they want to go. We're actually headed to the middle of the 8th as we actually speak. And yeah, there is no score. So I was given an update. I guess it came back. I don't really know, to be honest. I'll check it out later on the highlights after we're done here. But given where the standings are at, maybe the updates I was getting was pitching changes. Regardless, I thought I saw something that said scoring plate, but you know what? That's okay. As I said, the Blue Jays are about a game under 500 as we speak, and currently at 26 and 27. So they could be tied with the Tampa Bay Rays, who are at 500 currently. And have they played and wrapped up? Yes, they have. But the reason why they are at 500 right now is because they were a game above 500, but they lost 4-2. Sounding familiar, to be honest. It sounds familiar, to be honest. Oh, you know what? The difference is it was 4-2 instead of 7-2. Okay. Well, 5 games above 500 is good for the Minnesota Twins. It also means they are not tied with the Cleveland Guardians now. They are 30 and 24. Cleveland is 29 and 25. Either way, one team's got to win, one team's got to lose. So either way, you got to take what you can get. And in this case, sometimes taking what you can get means one side will be happy, one side not so much. All right. So there's an insight to the record. Who has stood out for me so far this season? You know what? I really like what I'm seeing from Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and my boy Ernie Clement. Shout out to Ernie. I think he's been doing pretty well for the team as of late. And honestly, I don't think you could have any better season than Ernie might be having. I'm not saying he's having a great year. I mean, okay, maybe he is, maybe he isn't. But I'm not going to badmouth him on this. I won't badmouth Ernie on this. I really won't. That's not me. That is not something I would do. And I'm not going to start doing that. Because if it's something I'm never going to do, then why would I even bother doing it? Why would I bother doing it? Why would I? I respect Ernie. I respect the team. Why would I bother badmouthing Ernie? I'm not going to do that. I also understand Alek Manoah might be back. We haven't seen Alek Manoah in a long time. So the fact that Alek could be back, that brings a smile to my face, but it also means, what are we going to do with Max Scherzer? I'm pretty sure we'll know in due time. Alright, anyways, next time on Weekly in Sports, that's the end of the month June program, we are going to be going full throttle on the PWHL, looking at what happened during the women's PWHL draft in the Women's Hockey League. We are also going to see what else is happening with the Toronto Tempo in the WNBA. Of course, it'll be off-season time by this time, but we are going to see who came out on top as the winner of the Stanley Cup. And of course, as another sport ends in the men's side of things, we often wonder what is going to be the next sport, I should say, that fans will tune into. Well, the NFL is coming up, so we'll get some quick thoughts on that on our next show as well. Also, some big stuff happening in the WWE. I know we haven't covered WWE for quite a bit, I should say. But we will see what we can get into on our end of the month June program. Thank you guys so much for being with us here today. Would love it if you took a second to rate, review, and share the podcast. If you like what you heard, please consider rating and reviewing the podcast. If you think we've earned it, it really helps out me and the pod as we are just getting Weekly in Sports, the podcast, started. And it looks like we've been on quite an interesting roll so far. Yeah, okay, we weren't able to do our February program, but times like that will happen. We will see where we can get into things. That will do it, though, for episode 4 of Weekly in Sports, WISP, the podcast. Weekly in Sports, the podcast. That will do it for episode 4 of the podcast in its podcast era. Our end of the month May program that we titled Minnesota Goes Back to Back in the PWHL and more. More meaning we were going to talk some Brendan Shanahan. We did. I talked some Blue Jays. We talked about who the Final Four are in the NHL. Still a lot more good stuff to come as we proceed with Weekly in Sports. If you are a Weekly in Sports enjoyer and are also enjoying Sports for Beginners, be sure to join us for our 14th episode. Season number 4 of the show is on the air. Episode 14 of that show is a football related show. And we're going to try to keep it that way. But make sure you tune in, because that will be when you can hear when things like before they kick off, Dolphins postgame, Bills postgame, etc., will be heard on the shows on Sports for Beginners, most likely. And of course, the postgame shows will be heard on the ice and behind the benches, Dolphins postgame and Bills postgame as well. Maybe not every week, but we will see. With that said, I am Scott McGregor. This has been Weekly in Sports. To all of our American listeners out there who celebrated Memorial Day weekend, hope everyone had a great Memorial Day weekend, and we will catch you after we get close to the end of the month of June. Once we get there, we will catch you. We will see you then. For now, my name is Scott McGregor, as I said. That is it for this one. Thank you so much for being with us. And until next time, my name is Scott McGregor, and this is the Weekly in Sports podcast. Thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you again real soon. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us today for your weekly dose of sports content. If you have any questions or thoughts on this show that you'd like to let our host know about, simply send us a voice message on Anchor and let us know what you think we can improve on to help us out on the show. And remember that it is not goodbye, it is until next time. See you Wednesday.
Bills are happening now. They're making it happen now. You've got the spirit, a lot of spirit, yeah. You've got the spirit. Just watch it happen now. Hey, 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 hey. Let's go Buffalo. Let's go Buffalo. Let's go Buffalo. Let's go Buffalo. The Bills make me wanna.